Like when I come back to Ireland and I'm in the sun, I will burn so much faster than when I'm in LA in the sun. There's a gaping hole, and I'm guessing there's a gaping hole in the ozone layer right over Ireland.
That makes perfect sense. LA has so much smog and pollution. It's probably like a protective layer. You look like you got some sun.
It's probably wind burn, to be honest with you.
All right. Welcome to the show, The Actor's Guide to the End of the World, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm your host, Econ Song. This is Rian Sheehy Kelly.
How's it going, everybody?
So let's get started. This is going to be a fun one.
It's actually not, guys. Don't worry about it. If I were you, I'd turn off now. Let's stop this charade.
Yeah. What do we sell these people?
Okay, guys, it's going to be fun. Bullshit.
And Rian, tell us what we have on the show for today.
Got a great show lined up for you today. We kick it off with some word around town. So the CEO and founder of the Camerimage Festival, film festival in Poland, has made some controversial remarks about female cinematographers, which has caused quite a stir.
And we're going to get into a discussion about how much TV and film should an actor watch. What are some ways to stay creatively fueled during the holiday season?
And then we'll also get into a new little bit that we've been discussing for a while.
Yes, very exciting new bit.
We'll see how it goes until we get bored, and then we'll replace it with a new bit, an even newer bit that's even better.
And as always, follow The Actor's Guide to the End of the World wherever you find your podcasts. And on all social media, make sure you follow us at Actors Guide Podcast. Let's get a word from our sponsor.
You think you're ready for leading roles? You feel you got that star power? Fuck you. Seriously, who do you think you are?
Welcome to your Humility Coach, here to always keep you grounded. With this app, you'll have your very own personal coach keeping you humble.
Are you going to wear that? Don't know if it's ever going to happen. You think you're better than everyone else?
This holiday season, give the gift of humility. Now in Espanol.
Pinche pendejo.
I'm not sure how much this was on people's radar, but there's a famous film festival in Poland called Camerimage, but for fancy Europeans, they might call it Camerimage or something like that. Anyway, it's dedicated to the best in cinematography.
Are you classing me as a fancy European?
Yeah, of course. What are you talking about? This is our connection to the UK and Europe.
I'm finally getting the respect I deserve. Although
I don't want to butcher the name. Zidovich, the CEO's Marek Zidovich, sparked controversy after penning an editorial responding to calls for his festival to highlight more work from female cinematographers. According to the op-ed, this evolution is crucial as it rectifies the obvious injustice present in societal development. However, it also raises a question. Can the pursuit of change exclude what is good? Can we sacrifice works and artists with outstanding artistic achievements solely to make room for mediocre film production?
That's right. That's what I read. Okay, yeah.
I mean, come on now. That's
very hard to misconstrue that.
That's going to turn some heads.
Yeah, and it did.
He then posed the question, should we reject what is esteemed and valuable just to make space for the necessity of social change? He went on to argue, whilst festivals, he used whilst, which is fancy European.
Medieval European.
Whilst festivals like Cannes, Berlin, or Venice are criticized for their selections due to succumbing to or promoting political or ideological trends, Camerimage remains committed to artistic values as the foremost criterion for qualifying and promoting film art.
And this, of course, led to a backlash from the British Association of Cinematographers?
Most associations, but primarily Women in Cinematography, which is a union for women cinematographers. Women in Cinematography responded with a list of acclaimed films with female cinematographers, and they had a petition to this festival saying, hey, you're ignoring a lot of terrific female cinematographers, and you historically have. And then this editorial was his response. Before the festival, as a result, Steve McQueen, who was going to get a directing award at the film festival, he directed Shame. He had a film called Blitz that was going to be
Hunger.
Oh yeah, Hunger. That's a great one.
Stunning director.
Yeah, and he worked with Michael Fassbender a ton, did incredible work with him. No-showed and pulled out from appearing at the film festival as soon as the op-ed came out. And also for our audiences, cinematography is also known as director of photography. They're known for
The look of a film,
essentially
how a film looks.
exactly the look of the film. Just to give an idea of why this is important, Kate Blanchett is on the panel of jurors this year. We also have another huge director, the director of The Substance, which is one of the notable films of the year, Coralie Fargiat. The director pulled her movie out as a response to this festival. So this definitely caused a stir.
I think that argument is a bit, I don't know, it's a bit tone deaf or something. You're saying, oh, it should only be judged on merit. Sure, fine. If the playing, if the playing field is level. If women haven't had access to the same positions and they haven't had access to the industry historically in the same way.
To think that there's a advantage between male and female for photography. like I mean, you get what I'm saying? One of the leading photographers in just portrait photography is Annie Leibovitz. You're composing an image. To think that there's an advantage from one to the other, it's like I don't understand the logic of it.
Any crew, people are working their asses off, male or female. You know what I mean? And to be honest, as actors, like, we have it so easy, man. Like, we just
yeah.
Like, you come in.
Who am I kidding? We haven't lifted a finger in our entire lives.
Exactly. Like, for people who don't know, on a set, actors are by far and away treated the best. I mean, you come in, there's a trailer there for you, somebody picks you up, somebody asks you what you want to eat, people get you things, they keep asking you, are you okay? Do you want to go back to are you too cold? Do you want a jacket? Crew are there before us, crew leave after us, they're there all day.
Exactly. I do want to jump in and just highlight some women cinematographers that were ignored by this festival in the past. Rachel Morrison is probably one of the top women cinematographers in our industry. She was the first woman to be nominated for an Oscar in 2018 for Mudbound. That film was ignored by this festival. DP Black Panther. So that was the first women cinematographer for a superhero movie. And most of Ryan Coogler's films, Fruitvale Station, a lot of indie greats. We have Maurice Alberti, and I'm just going the most notable, which especially films that I've seen. The DP of The Wrestler, Maurice Alberti, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, that was a stunning
I know.
Movie. Wow.
Stunning movie. We got Charlotte Bruce Christensen. She DP'd Girl on the Train with Emily Blunt and Molly's Game with Aaron Sorkin and
Jessica Chastain, was it? No.
Jessica Chastain, that was it.
Yeah.
And Ellen Kuras, who did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. No, right off the bat, I mean, these movies are freaking incredible. Incredible, and then also incredibly shot. So,
and I doubt that a lot of people would know those names off the who aren't industry people. I think a lot of people would know Roger Deakins' name. Comments like that are just not helpful. To say, it's like people say, oh, if we just stop talking about racism, there'll be no racism. It's that kind of argument where you're like, it's not because we talk about it that it exists. It's the other way around.
Yeah. I think that's spot on. And,
okay, so that's it. We solved inequality. Good work. Thanks, everybody. Yep. See you next week.
So I just feel like a continuation off of last week's episode where we're talking about screenings, we're talking about catching a lot of movies. And, it just came to mind where, everyone's like, oh, Econ's just stuffing himself with cake all day. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it just came to mind. So bridging off of last week's episode, I don't know if some of you caught it, but we were talking about catching a lot of screenings. We were talking about catching up movies this holiday season. It's award season. And it just occurred to me, I think that everyone's thinking that Econ's just eating a bunch of cake all day, just stuffing himself watching screenings.
You didn't say it was cake at these screenings. I would have gone to more. Thanks.
Metaphorically. It occurred to me that it's actually quite the contrary. During the year, I don't watch a lot of TV and film. And this holiday season, it's a way for me to catch up. Almost like a creative renaissance for me. I get to reset and just kind of watch things that might inspire me. And I kind of get into that cycle every year.
No, this is really interesting because you watch movies then the way I eat. Like, I won't eat for like 20 hours and then I'll eat like a nut.
Exactly. 4. That's exactly. Oh, yeah. We'll eventually talk about intermittent fasting. But yeah, that's exactly Dude, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
I'm curious how other people look at it, because I look at this like a creative diet. Okay. You know, we're the product. And I say we as in actors. We're the racehorse. And what are we feeding ourselves to keep us healthy? Are we taking in a balanced meal of, healthy diet of smart, thought provoking things? Or are we just eating cotton candy all day, scrolling through TikTok 8 hours a day? Do you know what I mean? That's how I kind of look at this. And I don't want to be judgy.
No,
I don't want
no.
to be judgy here. It's like, I'm not against dessert and cotton candy. I'm just saying, can we be balanced about this? Are we feeling good and loose and confident? Or are we weak? Are we anxious? Are we strung out with, anxiety and nerves?
That's a really interesting take, and I love this conversation because I have a lot of thoughts about this. But first of all, I love that we're the racehorse, because I often feel like I'm just a mule in a field scratching my nose off a post with sort of flies buzzing around me. But I will say, I think my reluctance to watch, TV and movies and everything else as a regular part of my week is just a lack of sort of concentration, which I think has been exacerbated by phone use over the years. And I don't know that it's necessarily that I need, mental space to create stuff. I think I lack the concentration that I used to have. I used to read every night. I used to read every night in bed before I fell asleep, every single night growing up. I haven't done that in a long time because when I try to, I'm captivated by the phone and I'm scrolling and I'm getting these dopamine hits. And I think that more than anything has damaged my ability to watch shows. Now, I do watch shows and movies. The way I watch movies now, or the way I prefer to watch movies now, what it's actually done, and this is a sort of a happy byproduct of that, is that it's driven me back into the cinema, because I find that that's the most assured way for me to focus on a movie. I have a pal, my friend Tasha in LA. The two of us during the day will go to a movie because she likes movies too. And we'll go to whatever's on. We'll go to the Lamley in Santa Monica and we'll watch whatever movie's out. And that's a cinema that has a lot of unusual movies that you don't get in every theater, say. So
right, more independent.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. As far as shows go, it takes a lot for me to get into a show. And even when I like a show, sometimes I bail out after a few episodes. And I don't know.
You just hit it right on the head, and I want to dive into that. We're not going to demonize social media.
I will.
This is part of that conversation. Similar to the creative diet, what we pay attention to is what we care about. If you go to your iPhone settings, if you look at the amount of time that you're spending on Instagram and TikTok, you most likely will be surprised. Social media might be changing how we think. It might be changing how we relate to other people. And it might be changing our entire psyche, because we're getting clickbaits in 1 minute bites, and it's not allowing us to strengthen our brain to be in that story for an extended period of time. I'm just kind of highlighting and bridging the gap between what social media is doing to our brain versus sitting in the movie theater. I completely right. I completely agree. Part of the reason why I'm going to the screenings is because I don't have a way to escape.
Yeah.
I am going to get fed for 2 hours to watch a movie that I may never see again. And on top of it, I get to see Natalie Portman speak about it.
Yeah, and also it's a shared experience, because you're not watching TikTok videos with an audience of 40 people. You know what I mean? You're watching it on your own, on your phone, sort of 4 inches from your face. Now, I'm not on TikTok for that very reason. I have a TikTok account, but I never go on there because I just don't think, I know me and I know how my brain works, and I don't want to open that Pandora's box of a whole new
there you go.
social media service.
And that goes back to the diet. You don't keep cookies in the house.
I know.
You don't keep cookies in the house.
I have no impulse control, so I can't be on TikTok. I can't keep sugar in the house. I used to smoke. I could not regulate that. I no longer drink.
Smoker.
I am not a moderator. I am an all or nothing. I live my life all or nothing.
This is one of the connections between us, because we're very similar in that way. And here's the thing. It's and going back to this racehorse thing, it makes a lot more sense in the world of a writer. If you're a professional writer, and if you think you're a professional writer, what do? You read books. Oh, heck yeah, you're going to read books. You're the racehorse. You're going to create an output, and you better be writing. So what's our job as an actor? It's a little more ambiguous because we want to create, we want to act as much as we can. Well, if we don't have that outlet, what are we going to be doing? We're taking in all this content, we're seeing all the TV and all the film and watching all the movies, and then we have no outlet to put it in. Then we become fat and bloated, and we eat cotton candy all day, and then you're going to be a mule just grazing the post. You know what I mean?
A great time just sleeping in the grass. But this is a great point, actually, because this is the thing that I struggled with for certainly the first number of years of my career. I didn't know. So you're an actor, great. What do you do when you're not working an acting job? Which for a lot of actors is the norm. Not working is the norm, and there's no clear linear path. But I've found in recent years, and also as well, I think this is why a lot of actors have turned to creating their own work, which I think is a brilliant idea, and something I want to do more of. But I'm in such admiration of people that just write, that also make their own movies, because I think more and more you sort of have to do that, because you can't sit at home. Another thing you can do is classes, workshops, be around other actors.
Just to jump in on that, and I want to give a shout out to Leslie as well. Our time at the studio, we prioritize and emphasize the importance of rehearsal, working with actors, being able to coach actors, being able to take direction. That was instilled in me primarily when I got to the studio. And you're completely right. As an actor, if we're not in a play, if we're not shooting on a TV show or a film, where does that actor get to run and, get their reps in, get to, I'm looking for more sports racehorse metaphors. When you get to run that race and keep in shape, we need rehearsal. We need all those hours, and it still might not be enough for a lot of actors, but we need something to stretch those muscles. You know what I mean?
It's just like training for me. It forces me to focus on something. It takes some of the pressure off auditions as well, because you're also working on stuff all the time, and you don't give every audition the weight that you do when you're not, because when one comes along, you're like, oh, this is a chance to act, but it's also, my chance to work. So I think the two can get a little muddled there, because it's something you love doing, but it's also your means of income. So I'm learning all the time. I'm seeing other actors, which is key. I'm acting with other people.
Is there a difference between this huge audition that it would change your life and you want so bad, and the work that you routinely do day in, day out in class?
There shouldn't be, but
exactly.
But I know why it feels like there is.
Yeah, with this routine of rehearsing with other actors and being able to take a note on a dime, that gap is bridged. To think that your work day in, day out is going to be just as fabulous as your audition, that's what we're trying to get to. There's one last point. There's one last little tidbit, because it also might incorporate into what we might do eventually. But Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. It's a quintessential book for artists, creatives, etc., etc.
Or anybody who just wants to be creative. It's
Exactly.
for anybody, really. It's not really for professionals. It's for anybody that wants to just encourage more creativity.
So one of her exercises, I don't know if you remember this, for a week, she does, weekly exercises for a week. No words, no TV, no film, no listening to music.
No speaking?
I think you can talk. But my point is the exact like going a step further of this racehorse diet. That is how bare you're taking in. You're taking in nothing. You have only to deal with your own thoughts.
Yeah, I do the same thing, because I used to walk with music in my ears a lot, and I realized that the music was sort of telling me how I should feel. If I'm listening to music, if the music is sad music, everything looks like a sad movie. If it's upbeat, I feel happy. I don't like that.
Especially as an actor, because we're so receptive, it will affect how we think and how we feel. So, just to set the table, we're very aligned on it, because we probably watch less TV and film than most actors.
I don't know than most actors, but not as much as I'd want to watch.
Oh, really? I don't know. I think I can safely say I probably watch less TV and film than most actors. So keep in mind, this is completely subjective. This is completely, it's different for everyone. But I'm just using us as actors as the guinea pigs to kind of set this table, because both you and me can admit we would want to watch TV and film more, If I was a film director, I would be like Quentin Tarantino, studying and watching as much movies as I can. That would be true. So as actors, you would think, why would we not be watching great actors act more often and give us that sustenance?
No, I think it's like that thing because when I do it, I love it. You know what I mean? When I watch a movie or when I watch a TV show that I like and I see a brilliant performance or just a brilliant show, I'm like, oh, God, I love that. I need to do this more. That's like the gym for me. I go to the gym, I feel great. Why do I not go for another week? I've heard this phrase, it was working so well, I gave it up. You know what I mean? When you have a habit that changes something in your life and you're like, this is great, I'm doing this all the time. It works so well that you feel so good that you stop doing it.
There are some shows that are so brilliant, I can't watch it.
That's interesting.
I will say,
tell me more about
it's
that.
Veep. It's Veep.
Oh, I love Veep. Too.
Veep was so brilliant comedically, so sharp. I was like, I can't. If I watch any more of this, I'm going to die. I was like, I'm going to explode.
Yeah.
I can't watch this. And I watched 5 episodes. Couldn't do more.
Really?
I'll save it for a rainy day. I almost didn't even forget. I forgot about the show.
Veep is a comfort show of mine. I'll jump back into Veep at any point because I absolutely love it. You're right. It is genius.
For me not to pay complete attention to it, it's like me going to Cirque du Soleil and not watching the performance. It's like I'm not doing dishes and watching Veep. I was like, if I'm watching Veep, I'm like, oh my God.
That
oh
I
my
do
God.
understand.
I
That I do understand. It's like listening to something to fall asleep to. I can't fall asleep watching a really good show because I'm too invested in it. Veep is one of those shows. I can't fall asleep watching Veep. What I have done for quite a while is I'll fall asleep listening to old Norm Macdonald interviews on YouTube. I've found most of the Norm Macdonald content I can find on YouTube to fall asleep to because I think he was such a brilliant comedian, but it just kind of, I can fall asleep to that.
I feel you. I love Norm Macdonald, and he also has that voice and that cadence that could just be like nice and soothing a little bit.
Yeah.
One other guilty confession, and this is embarrassing because I'm from New Jersey. I did not finish Sopranos. I did not finish Sopranos. That's my point. It's on my list of things I cherish.
How far did you get?
3rd season. So I was in there. I know it's so good, and I'm just about to get to where it's great. I'm saving it. It's like saving the last piece of pie. You know what I mean?
Next week, I want you to have watched Sopranos all the way till the end. That's your homework for the week. Speaking of, I have a lot of guilt about not watching as much as I should. I do have guilt, and I have some guilt about not seeing some of the movies that people talk about that I think I should have seen. The classics. People say, oh, you have to have seen this. Because when I've tried to watch them at times in the past, and I'm talking about real classics, like movies like Casablanca and that, the style of acting in them sometimes puts me off, and I'm like, this is a classic, is it? Because I haven't given them the chance. So I feel like there's a lack of film appreciation in me that I would like to cultivate a bit, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm missing out, but I also feel like a bit of a fraud when people talk about them and I go, yeah.
Exactly. And I think, and then this is leading to what we're about to reveal. Can we be open-minded to something that is new? Can we be open-minded to different voices and different inspirations? And maybe that can only make ourselves better. We don't have to love everything. But let's say, for example, if I read Ernest Hemingway, I'm not like, this feels like old-timey language. I feel like this is freaking great writing. You know what I mean? So I would love to bridge that gap with you. And this is leading to our new bit, which is called Greatest Movies Never Seen. So this is, in a way, accountability between me and Rian, but also you might be able to join with us. We're going to go down the list. Probably AFI's top 100, a really classic list of the best films in history, of films that me and Rian have not seen yet. Some of them we might discuss in depth. We might talk about things that really changed our mind, really changed our outlook on acting or film.
Or if we still think they're shite.
Exactly. That's very possible. And yeah. I just want to add, We have no intention of this essentially being a movie review podcast, yet we might
Not
talk
at
about
all.
movies in a way. I just want to throw this out there, not as a weird tangent, but I'm wondering, in some distant future, is watching some of these classic films going to get harder and harder? Like, I'll use an example. I have a DVD player. Now, it might not be weird for you to have a DVD player, but just think about most people in America. Do they have a DVD player? Some of these films are not going to be on HBO. First of all, like look at the studio system. Yeah. The studio system, HBO, Netflix. Sometimes you can't track down these movies. Sometimes they're on for a month here. Sometimes they get ripped off HBO. There are some series that you'll never see again on HBO.
You're dead right.
We're not in control of that.
Because there's no ownership. There's no ownership anymore. You don't own any movies. You rent them for the duration of time that you are subscribed to.
So this is the whole thing. When now no one owns a DVD player except me. I go to the library to rent DVDs because that's the only way I can actually track down movies. You thought I was a grandpa before. I'm a grandpa now. So my point is
we all go to Econ's house and we watch DVDs.
Yes, that would be an ongoing part of the podcast.
Just put your address up there on the bottom. So let's top 100. I think we're going to start with Paddington 2. Is that right?
Sounds like a start. And for recommendations, actorsguidepodcast@gmail.com. Send your recommendations our way.
Yep. And every week we're gonna pick out a listener, and they'll be the winner, and they get to watch the movie in between the two of us on the couch. You want to tell them what we actually did start with on this journey?
Oh yeah. Let's do that. Me and Rian and I both did partake in a movie. We actually watched it together. It was a lot of fun. We thought that we would start out with The Player. Classic Hollywood. I believe it was shot in 1990s.
It wasn't that challenging, as we discovered. It didn't challenge us because those are the movies we grew up on. We grew up on 90s movies, so
it was an enjoyable movie to kick off this new segment, and it is kind of one of those quintessential Hollywood films.
Absolutely, and it was interesting to see how it had aged as well. Even though like we grew up on 90s movies, when you go back and watch, if you go back and watch episodes of Friends now, you're like, oh, that's it. Not all of it ages well, because culture changes, sensibilities change. But it was interesting to see that. But it was a fantastic movie. Like I really enjoyed it. But I think probably we need to go a bit further back if we're going to really just dig into this, because even the 70s movies are brilliant. Like I've seen so many 70s movies I love. The Godfather, all of these, Dog Day Afternoon, all these movies that the 70s was a great period in history. I think I need to go back a bit further than that, because when I watch a movie from the 50s, I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? So like, I think that's where I really need to watch it with a different sort of a mindset.
That's a great place to wrap it. So jumping into Hidden Gems, I was inspired by your what was it, Figs and Bread?
Dates on Bread.
Oh, dates.
Which I'm going to expand on because I realized there was a key detail of that I did. That'll be my hidden gem this week.
Oh my God! Everybody was shoving dates and bread in their face, and they didn't get the full recipe.
Well, they did, but now I'm going to zoom in on the bread.
So you'll clarify that. So I was inspired. It's holiday season, and this is just throwing it out there for people who might want to try it. I'm not going to get into the whole recipe, but Rian might know this. I love baking cheesecakes. Now we're getting to the holiday season.
Did not know that.
Okay. Is my passion. Every holiday party, I will bring a freshly baked cheesecake. I have one just freshly cooked for today. This happens to be Thanksgiving. I baked my own cheesecake last night, and I'm not going to get into the whole recipe, but it's incredibly simple. But I use the Instapot. The Instapot is essentially a pressure cooker. It's very common, at least here in the States. And you can cook rice, you can cook quinoa, you can cook, chicken and all types of meats. But I bake a cheesecake in it. I started doing it during the pandemic. I'm obsessed, and I'm always perfecting it. Sometimes I do a pumpkin cheesecake. Anyway, if you want the recipe, hit me up. Maybe I'll put the recipe in the show notes. Either way, it's incredibly simple. Purely cream cheese, honey graham cracker crust. It's to die for. Anyway, that's my hidden gem. So, Instapot to bake the cheesecake.
You are a mine of surprises. I baked cheesecake in an Instapot during the pandemic. If I had discovered that during the pandemic, I would have died of an arterial blockage. I'm so glad I was far less creative during that time.
That's hilarious.
And kind of on that theme, and thanks for tuning into our cooking podcast. Mine is so I try not to eat bread, right, which is part of silly disciplined eating schedule. Try not to eat bread because again, I'll eat bread, until it killed me. But I have been making, and my mother told me this, but I've basically been making bread with oats and yogurt, and that's it. It's basically oats and yogurt. So it's 1 part yogurt to 1.5 part oats. I was doing 2 part oats, a bit too dense. So basically, if you use a 500 ml pot of yogurt, you just put that in a bowl. You fire in then the same 750 mils, 1.5 parts of the oats. You just mush it all together. You put 2 teaspoons of baking powder in there, and then you bake it for about an hour at about 190 degrees Celsius or about 380 Fahrenheit for like about an hour. And you get a loaf of bread that tastes like normal bread, but it's just oats and yogurt. It's delicious. Don't use Greek yogurt because the thing will smell and taste like Greek yogurt. I discovered that. You can fire dried fruit in there if you want to sweeten it up a bit, or honey or whatever. But if you just want a loaf of bread that's like healthy, gluten-free, there you go. Oats and yogurt. That's all you need. And then grease the bread tin as well.
This is Rien approved. I don't know. Maybe we will spin off a cooking podcast. This is incredible.
Well, I was so buoyed by the success of my last. I got a lot of feedback on my last hidden gem. I was like, well, fuck, I should keep this trend up.
There you go.
So there you go.
There you go. The people have spoken. They want it. They want it. This is great. Well, that's our show, everyone. Thanks for watching. Enjoy. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, maybe give a like, maybe subscribe. It helps people find the podcast. Also, if you didn't catch last week's episode, it's right over here. Don't worry, we'll wait.